are your hosts, Nick Smith
and Kylie Jo Smith, and today's episode is called, what'd you say?
We are addressing the misunderstandings about proper speech. In case you didn't hear it in my voice, there were quotes around proper. But first, we need to shout out our Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much.
If you are not a Patreon supporter, you will not be receiving one of these in the mail, but
it's a handwritten gift card for those who can't see the video.
It's not a gift card. It's just a thank you card.
Sorry.
Don't be advertising things.
It's a gift that we're giving them that is a card,
yes,
but it's not a gift card.
Right.
You're right.
So we handwrite our thank you cards here at the NixMyth Podcast. So when you become a Patreon supporter, you're going to get one of these in the mail from us.
Awesome.
And these are actually needing to go out in the mail.
Yeah, we're going to send those out ASAP. We also want to thank Sankofa Club by Urban Intellectuals.
Yes.
If you can't see, Kylie Jo's got the shirt on.
I have it
Sankofa Club.
Yes.
And so they have been kind of partnering with us.
Yeah.
We use their products. So if you are interested, go to sankofaclub.com and hear about all the awesome stuff they have to help you learn about Black history.
Yeah, we'll be sharing more about that on our page. We have some videos of our kids doing stuff. You're going to love it. It's awesome.
It's pretty cool. And then a couple more things. We got new merch coming out. We have pre-orders starting March 1st.
Woo, you're going to love it.
Yeah, we've got a Make America Kind hat.
Exclusive. Like you will not find that anywhere else.
Copywritten, so don't take it. We also are going to have our flagship shirt, the Be Blessed tee, is going to be coming out. And then our final little business before we get to business is we are now booking for Kylie Jo's summer tour. She's going to be going on a summer worship tour. So if you're interested in having Kylie Jo come out for a night of worship, hit us up. Our email here at the NixMyth Podcast is smiths@NixMythPodcast.com.
Yes, so you might want to get on that soon because we got some dates already
filled up. So
already.
Awesome. Well, today we have a guest with us today. It is Shawn Iz316 Gates. And so we got him on the phone call. Let me go ahead and unmute this. Awesome. So I want to introduce our listeners to Shawn Mr. Iz316 Gates. He is a Wichita native, a rapper, YouTuber, on-air talent, community activist, and just an all-around solid dude. So I just want to say, what's up, bro? Iz, how you doing today, brother?
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Iz. And, of course, I want to be your favorite rapper. How y'all doing today?
And if you don't know, Iz has a YouTube page you need to go to. Just go to youtube.com/the-iz, that's I-Z, real316, and you can check out his YouTube page, and it is filled with just dope content.
Yes, so you need to subscribe to that. Don't just go and look through videos. You need to actually click subscribe because that's
button.
Important.
It is very important.
And it's free to subscribe.
I appreciate that. Because half of my viewers, according to the stats that you guys have, my viewers, aren't subscribed. I don't know how that works. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. But
that's money right there, brother. I appreciate it.
Right.
I'm trying to learn from you because we need to get our YouTube page up. So I'm trying to figure out what that's like.
It's just been consistency. You know, I've been at it for 6 months. It's one of those things that I had wanted to do, and I always gave myself excuses for why. I do it next week, or I'll do it next month, or I'll wait for this point or wait for this time, and I just realized that it's really never, there'll never be a perfect, necessarily, opportunity for you to do certain things. It's just you got to put it out there, and you got to try. So
that's a sermon right there, bro.
He said a sermon?
That'll preach right there. That's a sermon right there.
I call it, as of recently, say RIP, but I've been calling it the Kobe Bryant factor.
That's right.
You just never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So why put off for tomorrow what you could do today? And,
that's awesome.
I just think it's important that, I try to counterbalance a lot of this craziness that's going out there and, put some positive, educational, entertaining stuff, out as well. And YouTube has been a great platform for me to do it. It's been, it's been such a boost to my career. Last week, for this whole month, I've been doing an episode called Black Future Month, which is me.
I've checked those out, actually.
And I appreciate that, so it's me celebrating. While our past is important, we also got to think about what are we going to do going forward. And so it's a 4-part series that started last week. And last week I got almost 10,000 views.
Wow.
on that one video. And so,
Yes, sir.
you know, uh, all praise to God, I guess.
Yeah,
For
God is
helping me.
good, man.
I need it all the time.
That's awesome. Well, is what we're gonna do is the name of today's episode is "What'd You Say?" And what we're talking about is this misconception of what proper speech is. And so we've got a couple questions like that we're gonna ask, but generally we're just gonna see where the conversation goes. And so I just wanted to start it off with as an MC, you use words to paint
Right.
verbal pictures, right?
Right.
And so sometimes those words you have to say things differently that aren't consistent with what people consider proper speech. And
Right.
so what is your take on the use of like profanity in storytelling, or the use of harsh language or harsh words or any of that? In like, what's your take on the use of language in storytelling, going against what people would call proper speech?
I say, as a person who has a self-professed potty mouth,
Yeah.
I don't always say the right thing. I think a lot of it is it's different levels to it, right? And so if you look at we use numbers 0 through 9, right?
Okay.
As far as math goes, well, like
Yeah.
in the Hebrew language, each letter has a numeric value to it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So on a deeper level, when you're saying things, you got to be careful because you're, if you will, conjuring certain frequencies, right?
Okay.
And that's why when you say certain words to people, if you use the F word to people, they get mad because that's the energy behind it. Now, our words are like a rock. If you throw a rock once it leaves your hand, wherever it hits is where it hits it, even if that wasn't your intended target. So you definitely got to be careful about, the things that you say. I mean, the Bible even says that life is in the power, life and death is in the power of the tongue. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that a person can speak negatively that'll counteract certain things for them are positive. So far as me, I got thick skin, so I try to listen to the essence of what a person is saying, even if I don't agree with the way they're saying it. But you know what I mean? Because somebody could curse you out, but be telling you the truth about yourself, and some people will try to deny the truth just by the way that it was said. Now, I also say, if you're trying to deliver a message to a person, it's in your best interest, if you really love that person, to deliver it in a manner that's palatable to them, right? Because you can tell your wife, shut up and quit talking right now because it's not the time.
No, I can't.
Right?
No, I cannot.
Now, I'm saying you could. I don't know how long you'll be married. I don't know how long you will be healthy. That might entail a trip to the emergency room. Or you could say, baby, could you please be quiet right now? I don't think this is the time.
Yeah.
She may not like either one of them, but we know which one she's going to be more receptive to, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that. So with my music, although my message is a positive one, if you will, it's my target audience that I'm trying to reach. They're not offended by curse words.
And
you see what I'm saying?
That's a good point, because growing up in Black culture,
right.
I'm technically less Black than Kylie Joe, but
yes, everyone needs to know.
But
that.
you wouldn't know that
you
by the way we grew up, because I grew up in Black culture, and so I had learned from an early age the difference between cursing or profanity as just everyday language versus profanity in an aggressive way. And there's that saying where I think it's only like 7% of your message is communicated through what you say, and the rest is how you say
Absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
And so in Black culture, it's common for just because of all sorts of history, but it's common for curse words to be a part of our vernacular that's not used in a derogatory term. Like, we're not trying to put people down, or we're not trying to
Right.
insult you. It just it becomes part of the common experience.
Well, yeah, it's actually a term of endearment because in Black culture we talk about the people who we like. So when I see you,
It's
like,
true.
oh man, if you don't bring your little ugly whoopie, you know what I mean? And that's how
Yeah.
we know, this person cares about us and loves us. Because if you walk up on your uncle and he's like, hey, Nicholas, you like,
Yeah.
did I do something wrong? Like, you know what I mean? Did I say something wrong?
And
So
then it's weird.
yeah, so I do think it's important because one of the things is that words do transmute over time, and it's important to know what you're saying and the history behind what you're saying. And I'm not a linguistic person by any manner, but sometimes you can really look and see the root word of something, like especially compound words. And when you see the context that it's used in, it can be used in a whole different manner, and people can use those things to control you. I've seen, and I that's what I said about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I think, and also, like, you talk about knowing who you're talking to,
Right.
knowing how they're going to receive it. That actually, like, looking at scripture and what we're instructed about our language, it's not just don't say these words. There's not just like a list of words where it's like don't ever utter these or else. There's an
Right.
understanding of know who you're talking to, understand even what people consider crude or offensive, know how
Yeah.
people are using their language. And then, because you could be talking to a whole group of people, if you're trying to relate to them and you come in, like you said, you come in, hello, my name is Shawn, and they're automatically going to turn off because wait a minute,
Right.
I'm not trying to hear you talk to me like that.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you can relate to them on the language level, on the cultural level of like, hey, look, I talk like you. They're gonna hear it differently. It's just like a foreign language. You come at them
Yeah,
speaking French,
absolutely.
they're not gonna want to hear you.
Me and Nick had the fortune of being classmates at Wichita State University.
Shockers,
And,
what's happening?
You know what I'm talking about? And,
Yes.
what I learned there is I took a class in economics. One of my professors said, I can't remember the exact numbers, but he was like, if your average income is, or if your gross income is $500 and your expenditures amount to $300, then that means that your average propensity to save will be $200, right?
Right.
Well, he's using these economic terms because that's what he does, and he wants to sound so smart. When he could have said, if you make $500 and your bills is $300, you got $200 you can do whatever with, right?
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
that's no different than church. Church has a certain vernacular to it, and when you grow up in church or you've been in church or something like that, you understand a certain vernacular. Now, when you're talking to somebody who's in the streets who has never been in church before, you got to learn how to say those same things without using vernacular that they won't understand.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Contextualization, like when you can contextualize your message, well, it does two things that I've understood is like, because back in the day when me and Iz used to do music together,
Right.
delivering the same message to people. You know what I mean? I'm still trying to just stretch my legs in other areas, but I'm gonna jump back in there one of these days, bro. One of these days,
Double
you're gonna
dutch.
get
Double
a
dutch.
new.
Gotta jump in.
Hey, that's it. But using words to paint pictures, using words, I guess the term properly speaking was used. I remember I would talk to people in an educational setting and get my point across that needed to be, and then they would hear my music and they'd be like, "Oh, but I never guessed that was you because you
speak so well.
You're speaking so proper." But it's like,
Right.
no, proper is what's necessary for the environment.
Exactly.
And so, what's necessary when I'm trying to relate a message to people, like you said, who have never stepped into church, I'm not going to come up to them and be like, "Excuse me, can I bring you an exegetical hermeneutic based on the grace of the propensity for God
my
you know what I mean? Like,
are you aware of the propitiation for your sins, sir?
Yeah, I'm not bringing all that. I'm just going to be like, hey, do you know Jesus? Like, let's talk about that.
Right.
We don't need to get into all the other stuff, but there's a being as though it's Black History Month, what we're talking about with Black culture is the
Right.
dominant culture is white culture. And so having the standard being set that proper English or proper speech is being able to relate to white culture, a lot of times when we are relating to each other, it comes across as though we're not speaking properly.
Yeah.
Like that.
Or being offensive.
Yeah. That our language then becomes, it becomes something that makes us part of being the outsider.
Yeah.
And so one of the things, I actually had a conversation with a gentleman who is, of the Caucasian persuasion.
Right.
And one of my white brothers, he was talking to me about language. He really didn't understand, the age-old question of like, well, can I use the N-word? And I just,
No.
first off, no, don't.
You cannot.
If you don't come
You
from
do
that,
not.
do not use that. Like, I'm just going to put it out there for all of our listeners. I don't care who says it's cool. It's not. Don't use it. You might get punched in the mouth.
Even
Yeah,
if you're alone when you
absolutely.
say it. Someday
Absolutely.
somebody's going to punch you.
Yeah. But one of the things I was telling him was that a lot of people don't even understand that most of the derogatory terms for all ethnicities were all derived by rich white people.
I gotta give it to him. Like, if you gonna do something, be good at it. And there's a lot of rich white people who just happen to be spectacular at racism.
Just grade A, bro.
They're just really good.
You know what I mean?
They excel.
Yeah, I totally get it. Cause like, you know how many variations there are for the N word?
Oh yeah.
Too many.
Oh
If you
Lord,
don't,
like,
and if you don't know, watch the Boondocks. That episode with Uncle Ruckus of How You Going.
Oh my
oh
god.
man, don't even get me started on that. Now, I think it's funny that, I got a friend and she's from England.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has that accent, that British type of accent. And so she says that she's from North London. She's from London,
Okay.
North London. And she can tell by talking to other people who are from there what side of town they are from by their accent, right?
Okay.
Huh.
And so, which is interesting to me because they all sound the same to me, right? And then, and I love the accent, but then they look at American English as a bastardized version of English.
Yeah.
So to have Americans tell blacks that we don't know English is kind of funny. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
funny to me. Like, you don't know how to speak properly. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll go to London and they'll tell you the same thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. No, that the
Yeah.
role of language it's one of the pillars of culture, right? You've got art, you've got language, you've got dance, you've got music, and I can't remember the fifth one. There's 5 pillars of culture. Dress. Thank you.
Just right. Okay.
And so having that pillar of language, being able to understand the use of language as a tool, it kind of something that's come up a lot in the past few years in culture. Is something that I didn't even have a name for, but it's this concept of code switching, right?
Absolutely.
Of knowing that we're speaking the same language, but when and Kylie Joe makes fun of me a lot for it. So like even talking to you on the phone now is different than when it's just me talking to my kids. You know what I mean, at home, because
Yeah, absolutely.
because the way that I know to relate to other men, especially other men of color, is through language and through
Right.
a certain ability to adapt your language to your situation.
And even the animation behind it. Like there's
Well-
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, because we all do it though, but it's just some people socially accept it in different ways. Because again, like even if you were expressing the same emotions, the way you would talk to me and the way you would talk to your wife is 2 different things.
That's
Like
right.
if you
Yeah.
call me talking to me like you talk to your wife, I'm hanging up on you. Like, bruh, like, come on, we go too far back for this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why
I'm
are
not
you
with the
doing this?
weirdness. Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect to hear you talking to your wife like you would talk to me.
That's
Right.
right.
Like, hey, what's happening, homie? You gonna cook tonight for me and the kids? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You
What's
like-
up, bro?
you
What's
like-
up on that dinner though? What you
You know
got?
what I'm saying? What that dinner do? You
That's
know,
up on that laundry though.
You know what I'm saying? And as a man, you probably wouldn't like it if your wife talked back to you like that.
Yeah, no,
You know
that'd
what
be
I'm saying?
weird.
If you was
we're
like,
not playing basketball, I don't need that.
Yeah, if she was like, you know, you was like, I love you, baby. She's like, all right, you cool.
Bet.
Bet.
Bet. Yeah, bet.
All right,
Bet
cool,
that out.
cool, yeah.
Yeah, cool. See you in the bed tonight? All right, we can go to sleep. Like, you know what I mean? But, you know, and so I think that part of the reason why, one thing that I learned about, if you will, code switching is that a lot of our African American kids struggle with spelling because
Yeah.
they sound things out the way they speak them. In our culture, we don't use every syllable, and we just get straight to the point. And so when these kids are reading this, and this is what they've grown up with culturally, they don't understand the difference. So what happens is a chain reaction. If, you know, I'll be like, Nick, I'm supposed to go to the store. You want something? But if you're reading it, it's, I'm going to go to the store. Would you like for me to have some? You know, would you like to have something? So
Right.
when the kid reads that, he's for sure if on what it's really saying. You know what I mean? Because if your mama be like, boy, go in there and give me a few, you know, we know what that means. That means bring back 2 or 3. You know what I mean?
That's
But
right.
if someone says that, you know, and I don't know, I'm not for sure he would say that in plain English. But
I would like precisely 3 of those now and laters, please.
you know what I mean? Or those delectable now and later. But yeah, and you know, we just don't get down like that. And so I think that part of the reason why there's such an emphasis on the way that black people speak is because, one, I think white America is fearful of us, so they want to be aware of what we're saying at all times because they feel like it might be a threat. So I need to understand what you're saying. You know what I mean? I think that's part of it.
That's big.
That,
Yeah, that's important.
you know what I mean? It really doesn't get discussed because you don't really see it with, I mean, I guess you do hear them speak your own language. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
very similar, yeah.
But really, the English language in itself is just a melting pot of all these other languages that they've taken and put their own spin on. You know what I mean? So that's kind of interesting. But I think the other thing is linguistic envy, and I may have just, you know, coined a new term there.
I'm
like,
with it. Let's roll with it.
You know, linguistic envy is like the old man on your block. He always said the coolest stuff. You know what I mean? He had a saying for everything. You know, make your next move your best move. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stay wrong.
You know what I'm saying? Right. You know what I mean? All money ain't good money, player. Right? And so, black people, man, we just such cool people, man. And language is one of those ways that we express that. I mean, look at a rapper like Mr. E40 Earl Stevenson, who's been in the game for 20, 30 years and is still cutting edge of linguistics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you gotta love that. I mean, we turned the N-word into something that was palatable and cool for us. And I think that's part of the thing that makes people mad that they can't say it. Was like, I mean, how beautiful is that? You turn something that was meant to be demeaning and derogatory towards you into a term of endearment.
Yeah. And then you use it as something to empower people that look like you that were supposed to be put down.
Yeah.
Right.
And so,
right.
Yeah. That's
and
good.
It's like,
that's good.
Right. They're like, well, I can't say it.
No,
Why
you
do
can't.
you want to? Why do you want to?
Exactly.
Why are you fighting for it?
That's exactly the question that always comes to me. Like, why do you want to say it?
Exactly.
What about, because there's no use of that historically for anyone that's not black that was positive. There was never a point in our history where we can say, you know what, in this literature, they really referred to the Negro in a positive light.
Yeah, that meant power. It never meant that.
No, it always meant less than. It always meant something that was dirty or wrong or bad. And so for us to be able to take it, that is the question that comes up whenever anyone that in my family and in school at any time, well, why is it okay for you to say it and not for me?
Yeah,
why do you want to say it? What about saying this is good for you?
Well, my response is usually because I can whoop you, you can't whoop me. So that
right. When you can beat me, then you can say whatever you want. But
if you can
run faster, but until then, watch your mouth, player.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, but on the flip side, though, I've had white people, you know, call me that, and it wasn't the words that they used. as much as
Mm.
the intent behind it. And
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that.
Yeah.
It really wouldn't matter what the word was if you said it with, the right intent. I guess you could be like, you bubblehead. And
Yep.
if you said it with malice intent, then I'm ready to fight.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
fighting. We're fighting.
Yeah,
I'm
because
because
I ain't
even
gonna be your bubblehead today with
yeah,
that word.
you
because
know what I
even
mean.
like yeah, even someone's just saying about a person, that black person, that can be
Yeah,
extremely offensive in
Yeah.
someone's mouth if they mean it that way. But they never said the N word. I never actually said the N word is the excuse. No, but the way that you said that was dripping with derogatory intent.
unfortunately, I think that whether you used the actual word or not has become an indication for people of whether or not they term themselves as racist. Well, I don't use the N word. Well, there's plenty of people who don't use the word who's still racist.
Yeah.
You know what
Who
I
are
mean?
super
Like,
racist.
yeah, very much
Super
so.
racist.
Like, and
Mm.
and speaking of language, the English language itself is just so coded with so many different words. So
Yeah.
now you're not using the N word, but you're saying minorities or
Mm-hmm.
you
Colored.
know
The urban.
marginalized or the urban, but it means the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For most intents and purposes. And
And that's
so
actually, yeah, Nick was actually cornered with somebody said that used that term, urban. Don't you think you'd be better off in an urban setting? And you could just tell the way that it
Yeah,
was
you
meant
knew what they were
was not
saying.
a city. They were not
yeah,
talking about, don't you think you would rather be in a city? No, don't you think you'd be better around those people?
Your people, the people that look like you. Don't you think? Get out of our neighborhood is basically
Go
what
back
they
to
said.
the city.
Get back to
well,
Africa. They may not have said that, but that's what they were saying.
yeah, and like I know it's a little off subject or whatever because
You good?
talk about politics, but
Mm-hmm.
my major is in politics, and so I've I've lived in bigger cities, which sounds like a mid city compared to some of the bigger cities I lived in, but I've
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
been to a lot of these small farm towns, and what I knew is that certain verbiage that the president was using was to tap into suburban communities because
Yeah.
when
Mm-hmm.
you got some of these places where literally even in 2020 black people have never lived or
Yep.
Yep.
people from color have never lived, so these
Mm-hmm.
people have had no reason to expand their way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you use terms like that, yeah, they're going to buy into that. When our president is saying certain things that he knows is going to tap into this rural area, because
Yeah.
it's easy to be like, oh yeah, well, I don't like, you know, I went a guy we went to school with. We were in the dorms his freshman year. He's from like Paola, Kansas, right?
Uh-huh.
And of course, no one's ever even heard of that, and so it gets back to me. Well, he doesn't like black people. And
Yeah.
so
Mm.
eventually the conversation came up. I wasn't going, rush down there and recite the I Have a Dream speech to him. I mean, I met a lot of black people that, a lot of white people that like black people. But,
Yeah.
when I start asking him questions, he started to feel really ignorant because he had never even grown up around black people.
Wow.
He had never even spent any considerable amount of time around someone black. And I think that that's a big problem because it's like, how do you point the finger? How do you judge somebody based upon someone you don't even know? It's easy to
Yeah.
be like, those black people when
Mm-hmm.
it's a little harder when your neighbor is a black person or your coworker is a
Yeah.
black person or, you actually have
Yeah.
had any sort of meaningful interaction with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
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 Well, last week we were talking about policing in the black community last week, and we were talking to a black police officer, and he was actually bringing that up as well about how the lack of exposure for a lot of our white brothers and sisters. A lot of times there are people they don't want to be racist, but they've never had the experience of even interacting with somebody that's black.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you also have people that have never experienced black culture and they still hate it. Like, so here's just an example is there's a gentleman who we know who's a part of our congregation, awesome saint, who lived and worked around Nicodemus, Kansas. And if
Okay.
anybody out there listening doesn't know who Nicodemus or what Nicodemus is, you need to look it up. It was one of the first black settlements in Kansas,
Yeah.
post
In the
Civil
West.
War. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
West.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Post Civil War, which is just a side note. This is one of those things. Anytime somebody from Kansas has a rebel flag,
Take it down.
I always want to be like, we fought wars
We were
to
never
keep the rebel flag out of Kansas.
Never part of the Confederacy.
Never.
Well-
so
Like
anyway,
blood was shed
Yeah,
to
that's
prevent
hilarious.
slavery.
That's hilarious too.
anyway. But-
Yeah, and that's a whole different rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's
but
a whole. I just had to bring it up. But so our brother, he grew up. I mean, he's an older saint. He's of a generation where most people would give him a pass if he was racist. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's certain
Right.
people, they're like, oh, well, they grew up in a different generation. But I remember having this conversation with him, and he was telling me about how he grew up, and the way he said it was like, yeah, some of my friends, I had black friends that I went to school with, and the way he said it, you could tell it was just a comfort level. There was no judgment. There was
Yeah.
no, he
Right.
it just rolled off his tongue. He didn't look over his shoulder before he said it. He didn't say it like, well, I had,
Yeah.
Right.
Negro,
black friends. He was
Right.
like, yeah, some of my friends in high school were black, and he just rolled with it. And I was like, okay, I know from that moment what his heart is. And even growing up in Western Kansas, northwestern Kansas, he didn't have an excuse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't utilize the excuses that were made for him, because we're still surrounded by people that use our language and use our culture because of how widely spread hip hop is, how widely accepted hip hop is. They use our language and our culture when we're not around to subtly mock us, or when we are around.
or even utilizing it in a like cultural appropriation type thing where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this is cool and this is hip and this is it's acceptable because I'm doing it and I'm
Right.
part of the dominant culture, but understanding like that's not actually okay
Yeah.
to do
Well,
that.
Well, I think one of the revelations I've had, and it's just new to me, but is that America loves, they love the contributions of black people, but they don't want the black people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They want the music, they want the art, they want the food, they want the lingo, they want,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But they just don't want the black people. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Right.
And,
No, you're right.
I had a conversation with a guy, and I asked him, who his favorite football player was. And, I think he was trying to, like, culture talk me. Oh, Deacon Jones, he was the best. Who's your favorite basketball player? Of course, Michael Jordan. Who's your favorite
Of course.
football,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yes.
Like, baseball player.
Mhm.
Hank Aaron,
Yeah.
And so it was like 9 times out of 10, your favorite athlete, your favorite singer, your favorite actress is probably going to be black.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean? It just is what it is. And
Yeah.
but in the same sense, these people who they held in such high esteem, like you hear, Wilt talking about, scoring 100 points and then still having to, go through, different doors at the hotels and whatever,
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so,
It's crazy.
yeah, I don't know. It used to bother me, but one thing that gave me like some solace is that, God does judge us by our heart, and you can
That's right.
hide all your intents and whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you can't hide that from God. So if you have malintent for me, for whatever reason, that's on you, because at the end of the day, man, you're really missing out. Being a part of black culture is something beautiful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, there's no term of endearment for, like, a black person who is living in a dominant white society. But on the flip side, if you a white person who lives in predominantly black neighborhood, you gonna get called white chocolate probably, or so, you know what I mean? Because there's a term of endearment that says, "Yo, listen, we are able to separate who you are from what your culture may have done." But it's not the other way around. Like my friend, she dated this guy who was from, I want to say, from Nigeria, and she's from a very small town. And so she told me when she went home, they were like, "Oh, well, you're ruined now because you've been with this black guy, and I didn't know you were with the dark side." I was like, "We Star Wars now, son?
Yeah,
we
you know what I mean?
got the dark side, like,
Oh
Come
my
on.
gosh.
Dun,
And it was
dun,
just funny.
dun, 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 dun.
Because
We
right,
got to remix
because man, I really don't sit around I recognize the things that happen or whatever, but I don't sit around, and nor do the majority of black people I do that I know sit around on a daily basis, like worried about what white people are doing.
Yeah, we're really
We
not.
Right.
just,
No.
we're just not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And um, I've I've been able to. I had to make a transition in my life. Once you get to a certain age, we're talking about words or whatever, you start reading books and doing research for yourself. Some of the
Yeah.
things that you'll find out can make you very angry, and it can make you
Yeah.
very
Mm.
bitter towards everybody. So I had my own struggle of making sure that I was being pro-black and not anti-white.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's
That's a good
good.
word, brother.
That
That's
is
a good
good.
You,
word.
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that's one of those things that we go through. I'm very outspoken. You talked about like police brutality and whatever. I'm very outspoken about that because I mean it needs to be. And I've lost
Yeah.
Mhm.
some friends, especially white friends, because of my views. And which is crazy that you would lose a friend just because you say, "Hey, don't shoot and kill innocent people." I mean,
Right.
Right.
it's crazy to think about, but that's just
Mm.
where we're at. And
Yeah.
so I wonder, like linguistically, I wonder like when, 400 or 500 years from now, when our current documents or whatever are being refound, if you will. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
I wonder what people are going to think about that. What they're going to think about us, what they're going to say about
Yeah.
our culture, our generation, our you know what I mean, our epoch.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, you know what? And one thing I want to just kind of give you props on is I've seen you use your platform for social change,
Mhm.
and you've spoken out about social injustice. You've spoken out about police brutality, about racial injustice, and it's not
Mhm.
just like you said. You
Right.
speak from a pro-black meaning that black culture defines who you are, but you also speak for anybody that has been downtrodden and anybody
Mhm.
that has been oppressed, and that's one thing I really
Absolutely.
I
Man,
respect about you using
Yeah.
your platform for that.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you. Like, like I get so many like inboxes. I think one thing that as black people we do have to have tougher skin because there are some whites who you can, for lack of the words, like convert. And it's better to make a friend than an enemy. Some of them,
Yeah.
sometimes they ask questions out of ignorance, and that ignorance may upset you. But if it can be a teachable moment, it's better to
Mm.
Yeah.
have an ally than an enemy. And sometimes it
Mhm.
just like they'll ask you some crazy stuff, and
Yeah.
your initial feel is to be like, man, look, you know what I mean, like, but through that, I've made a lot of friends because
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
made myself open to, you know, telling them and showing them because certain things is they just don't see. And I think that
Mhm.
one of the biggest things about like racism and white supremacy is that I don't think that white people understand that they've been tricked in a way to believe
Yeah.
certain things that
Yeah.
aren't true, and it has an effect on them too.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
Mhm.
again, like I think that and you could tell, like, if you ever had a white friend and you could tell he really ain't been around like too many black people, and then he comes around and he sees like the real camaraderie that we know and we
Mhm.
feel
Yeah.
and our sense of community. I had a friend come home with me from college. His plans got canceled, so he was going to stay in the dorms, and I could tell he was a little bit apprehensive at first. And I get it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and so he ended up hanging out with me and my family, and I kind of
Mm.
showed him my neighborhood, and he seen how everybody interacted with me in different places, and he was
Yeah.
like, "No one really interacts like this. We all know each other. We don't necessarily talk and interact with each other like this." And I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
it gave him a different insight on what it really means to be black. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah.
And so I think that also that musically you only hear one side of things.
Yeah.
You know
Definitely.
what I mean? You only hear like the angry black male, and there's a time and place for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I try to be more thought provoking on a lot of different things, on a lot of different
Mhm.
levels. You know what I mean? So when you listen to any one of my songs, if there's anything that you feel like is even questionable, I don't write things just to write them. So anything that I said,
Yeah.
there's a reason behind it. There's thoughts
Yeah.
behind it. And man,
That's
words
good.
are just beautiful. Like when you put them together and it really sinks in. So I got a new album coming out, probably April, or March, called Melanin Sun, which is
Oh.
kind of,
Yes.
yeah, and it's kind of like when I start listening to hip hop, and I start listening to like the Snoops and the the Ghetto Boys and the Nas's and those
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
artists. Like when you listen to the music, you get like a cultural snapshot of what it's like to be in their neighborhood or to grow up
Yeah.
with those things. You know what I'm saying? That they face. And so Melanin Sons is kind of the same thing. A lot of the music is more laid back and slow because it reflects Wichita. It
Yeah.
reflects that Midwest or whatever. You know what I mean? And some
Yeah.
of the things that we face. And I said, like one of the things that certain people know about me is that I had two children by the time I was a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
And yeah, so I had my own set of things to overcome, and so I was playing a song for one of these young guys, and in the song I said, um, I never knew that my mind was a weapon, thinking with my erections, no concept of conception, no deeper soul connection, just lack of contraception. And in the
Huh.
end, what does it all really mean if you get off in their jeans and your fluids mix jeans? How you gonna raise a family when you just 16? Sometimes you see the signs but can't interpret what they mean. And
Wow.
when you really
Yeah.
think
That's
about what I'm
good.
saying, I'm telling you, I wasn't trying to make a deeper soul connection with this woman or be in
No.
love with her or whatever. I just wouldn't use the condoms. But
Yeah.
it's
Didn't
a
know about it.
consequence for that because
Mhm.
it's the consequences for that. How do you raise it when you a kid? How you raise a kid?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and so I
Right.
think that I was able to put it in like a way that is like, okay, I'm using some fresh words, but there's also meaning behind what I'm saying. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
And
That's right.
I think that that's what's missing now. Is that is a lot of the music is fluff, it's filler,
Mhm.
it's almost like you might eat a some pizza pockets for a snack, but you're not gonna want that for dinner because it's not
Right.
feeling like that. You know what I mean? And so I
Yeah.
Right.
try to really, you know, put in filler and say things that um I think other people want to hear. And one of the
Mhm.
things that's important for me to shed light on is no matter how imperfect it may be, but is my walk with God because
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that I think it's cool to have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I think that these youngins don't get to hear that enough. They hear, you know, all the materialism and whatever else, but they don't never hear about, I pray, or you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like on the song I said, I got a song called "Eat Better, Sleep Better." It's just about what it sounds like. It's about I
Mhm.
should spend more time reading. I should spend more time eating, good food. I should spend more time meditating and praying and actually giving some type of credence to what God wants for me and for my life. And I
Yeah.
think if you do that, you know, God will always find you wherever you're at.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, we were talking about with music, your the lyrics you put in your music for the
Yeah,
artist, for you, you're telling a story, you're giving
right.
insight, you're educating, and you're also, like you said, giving kind of almost an entertainment value to it. But at the same time, what we listen to, what goes in, does affect what comes out. And so, like, especially in hip hop culture and understanding the role of rap music and how those lyrics go into us, and it almost becomes like a mantra at times. So like
Yeah.
what I hear you, like your story you've gone through, any bit of that I can relate to now becomes a part of my narrative.
That's right.
And
Right.
how important it is for us to put things in our music or in anything that's going into people's ears, especially this generation, to
Yeah.
put things in that language that is not just, hey, this sounds cool and it's lyrically like dope,
Kind of.
kind of, but also stuff that's like, hey, I want you, when you hear this, I want this narrative to become your narrative. Like, I want you to hear that, yeah, I should be doing that more. I should be taking more time for the Lord, and I should like. It's not just a cool set of lyrics to a beat.
Right.
It becomes part of our narrative as a culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. And part of what we do as with our podcast, Kylie Joe with her singing, you with your with the lyrics and the albums that you've put out, is we're helping to shape that narrative. And one of the things that you spoke on a little bit was the need to glorify what needs to be glorified. Point out the areas, definitely. There's always a time and a place to tell the stories of injustice, to tell the stories of brokenness and hurt and pain and all those stories that we live.
Absolutely.
But you also have to bring it back to an understanding of what am I promoting in the community? What are people gonna know me for? Because one of the cool things I like about like Pac, right? Just as an example, and even
for those that don't know, that is Tupac Shakur,
or even bringing it to, because people think I'm an old head for liking Pac, but even bringing it up to like Nipsey Hussle. Like if you listen to a lot of Nipsey's music, he has a lot of gang banging music, shooting, drug dealing music. But people don't remember him or focus on that. Really, they notice the struggle and they notice his motivation, and they talk about how encouraging he was for others to get out and get their own empire, just build their own platform to stand on.
And I definitely think it's needed. You know what I mean? And I as a grown man, I committed more than I would have at the time, but I was very influenced by the music that I listened to. I would have never admitted it, at the time, but as a grown man, like I was very much influenced by, Snoops and Pox and Bone and all these other people. And really, like I try to explain to people, like you could take Rick Ross, you could take Young Jeezy, you could take Young Dolph or what's his name? Yo Gotti, right?
Yeah.
And although they're 4 different rappers, their narrative is the same.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
even if they say it differently, it's still the same message. So even if you don't like this guy, particularly, like I don't care for his music and how he delivers it, it's still the same D-boy message. And we know that if you listen to anything enough times, it's going to infiltrate. It's going to become a part of what you thinking, you know what I mean, and how you acting. And so when you listen to, 5,000 songs about going to shoot and kill somebody, you know what I'm saying, then when somebody makes you mad, what's going to pop into your head?
Right.
Whatever you've been putting into it. There was a rapper recently, his name is YNW Melly, I believe.
Okay.
And he had this song called Murder on My Mind. First of all, it was creepy to me. It just was, you know what I mean? Like, he talked about I wake up in the morning, I got murder on my mind. You need a girlfriend, pimp. You know what I'm saying? But and so and so this song was very popular. All the kids was running around singing it, and I kept telling them, you need to be careful what you're saying. You need to, even if it's just a song, you think it's a song, and they thought I was just playing or whatever until 2 months later, guess who goes to jail for murdering his friend?
Wow.
You call it coincidence or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But definitely you got to watch what you say.
Yeah, what you put in is what you get out, definitely. And Scripture, when Paul says guard your mind, he says guard your thoughts, protect, take captive every thought, because really what we let play in our heads, and it could be a good or a bad thing. You can use that gift that God gave us for motivation. You can use it as catharsis, because I know there are some songs I listen to that may sound terrible, but in the moment it helps me to release frustration.
Yeah.
And then, but if all you're listening to is depressing, dark, sinister music, it does shape how you view the world and how you view yourself. But Shawn, what we're gonna do, bro? We're gonna close up first. Before we do, one more time, tell us the album, Melanin Sons. Is that right?
Yeah, Melanin Sons. Yeah, so it's 10 tracks, man. Man, they bangers. You know what I'm saying? And it's all, uplifting. It's very conscious, but not preachy. It's really thought provoking. If I had to use correct vernacular, I'd say it was like a sociological, anthropological study of the African American male in Midwestern United States in the 90s. or something like that.
Thank you for breaking
You
it
know what I
down.
mean?
Thank you for breaking it
I
down
hope
for
y'all
us.
were writing that down when he said that.
Okay, so that's coming out in April, you said, right? April, May, something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
We'll be definitely looking out for that. And when it drops, man, let us know. We'll definitely share with our audience.
Yes.
And then,
Man, yeah.
And just a reminder, y'all need to go onto YouTube and you need to subscribe to
Yeah, please do.
Israel's page. He's building up his following, and you just need to be a part of it. You need to watch his videos and like and comment, engage, because
Absolutely.
content producers want to be engaged with. It's not just something that he's putting out. You need to engage, have the conversation.
if you just go to YouTube, look for Iz316, you will find his page, guaranteed.
Yeah, I would. The best thing is just Google. I know I don't want to sound like all cocky, but just Google me. Just like put in
Check my pedigree. Go ahead and Google me
then
real quick.
well, my
Look me
website will
up.
come up. Yeah, you'll find my website. You'll find music. You'll find videos and different things, man. And so I've been blessed to really kind of tap in lately with some people. I took a trip to New York. I'll be back out there around April, but I've been blessed to meet some people who are certified in the industry and have really been helping me because they believe in the music. Not name drop or anything, but I was told by a friend, he was like, "Are you working with that guy?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, he doesn't work with just anybody. You know what I mean? There's been
That's
people
awesome,
I know
man.
who had money and he still wouldn't work with them." And when I talked to him, that's one of the things he said. He's like, "Man, I like your album because it's so positive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It ain't a whole bunch of derogatory stuff towards women or whatever. It's none of that.
Yeah.
I figure it's so many great experiences to talk about in life. It doesn't have to be, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this negative thing."
Yeah. Amen.
Well, praise God, bro. Well, we are praying for your success, bro. We are in your
Yes.
corner,
Man,
and we
thank you.
appreciate you taking time and stopping through the NixMyth Podcast and just sharing and discussing about language with us. We really appreciate you, brother.
Man, it's been a blessing having you guys, man. Have Rock and help. Let me know. I'll make sure y'all get a copy of the album.
Please do.
Thank
My name
you.
is Iz316, and I want to be a favorite rapper.
All right, bro. God bless you, man. We'll holler at you soon.
All right, peace. Love y'all.
All right. Go on. Love
Bye.
you too, bro. Go on.
All right. So that was awesome. I love that.
God is good.
Next time we actually need to be in Wichita and do an on the spot.
Yeah, we're going to work
interview
on
with him.
doing some live interviews.
Because I feel like that was cool having him
In
on the
person.
phone, but in person would be so much more dope. More doper?
It's
Doperist.
okay. Me and Iz
The
got
dopiest.
it. You don't.
No,
just
I'm
take a break.
practicing.
You don't
Look,
need to.
I'm trying to code switch.
My love, we will work it out. We'll work it out later.
You're hating on me. You are hating on me right now.
I need you to stop. You're gonna hurt yourself.
All right, so next week we will be continuing what we are doing this month, which is focusing on Black culture in particular, dispelling some myths, and I'm super excited about next week's topic because it is all about the ladies.
Yes, and I want men to know they can tune in as well.
You can tune in, but you just can't chime in. That's the rule.
Well, I'm chiming in.
You're not just any man, though. You're my man.
And please, you are going to hear some opinions that will be countercultural.
Oh, not just opinions. You're going to hear some straight historical facts.
Kylie Joe
verifiable.
is on 10 right now.
I have
She's
been
on level
researching
10.
this for a long time. I am excited to share this.
And I haven't. I'm just going to wing it. So hopefully this will work out. This has been the NixMyth Podcast. We hope you've gotten a dose of real life.
No myth.
Be
blessed.